Hello there everyone, it's Linda here from Just for Tummies, and this video is all about hormones and the menopause. So balancing hormones during menopause, tips and insights. And my guest today is someone that many of you will be familiar with, Sophia Hill. She's a nutritional therapist and she's been helping out Just for Tummies for many years now. Sophia puts together our wonderful recipes, if you've tried any of our recipes. And she also helps write content like fact sheets and blogs. So she's a key member of the Just for Tummies team. So I'm going to invite Sophia into the video and we're going to have a chat about hormones and menopause. So here we go.
Hi there, Linda.
You okay?
Yes, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm okay, thank you. I just can't seem to get warm today. I've got this really thick jumper on, and I still can't get warm. So I think what I'm going to do later, I'm going to go in the bath.
Oh, I was just going to say that. Get in the bath.
Yeah, I'm going to have an Epsom salt. I'm going to have an Epsom salt bath, Sophia, because when I get cold like this, it's the only thing that gets me warm.
I agree, and I've really missed being pregnant. Really hot baths, because you're not supposed to have really hot baths, and I love a really hot bath. So I've had to have sort of like tepid baths, and they're not the same.
They're not the same. Oh, I can't bear it. Even in the shower, actually, the water has to be red. Well, not red hot, but hot.
I know.
And then I get my exfoliating mitts, and I just give myself a really good sort of scrub down, and that really gets the circulation going. So I'm going to be doing that later. Anyway, it's lovely to see you, Sophia, because it seems to be quite a while since we last did a video.
I think it has. I think we were going to do one, and then I was in my first trimester and I was feeling really ill, so I don't think we did it. And now I'm nearly in the third trimester, so I'm feeling a lot better.
Yes, congratulations on your pregnancy, Sophia.
Thank you.
It's your second one, isn't it? I know you've got the lovely Frida. How old is Frida now?
She is going to be 2 on the end of Feb. So yeah, nearly 2 basically.
Yes, yeah. Of course, I remember, because was she a bit late, Frida?
She was a week late, yes.
A week late, yes. Because I kind of thought she might have been born around my birthday, which was the 16th. It's the 16th of February.
Yeah, her due date, sorry, was the 17th, but she was late. So yeah.
I remember now. And I mean, Jessie, she will be 5 on the 5th of February. As I am 65. I can't believe I'm saying that. 65 on the 16th of February.
Oh,
so
wow.
Does that mean that I'm a senior citizen or an old age pensioner?
Oh, what sounds nicer? I think a senior citizen sounds nice.
Well, I certainly don't feel like a senior citizen or an old age pensioner.
You don't look like one either.
Oh, thank you.
Not one bit.
Right. So let's make a start then, because Just for Tummies, we get contacted by lots of women, Sophia, who are struggling with hormonal symptoms. But because we specialise in digestive health, they contact us because since they've started transitioning through the menopause, they've noticed that they're getting constipated, or they're getting painful bloating, or they're getting acid reflux. And these are symptoms that they've never had an issue with before. And we know that there is a connection between hormonal changes and the digestive system, and we'll come on to that later. So when they do contact us about their digestive issues, then we can help them, with our live bacteria, probiotics, the digestive enzymes, charcoal. We can put a supplement protocol together that helps to manage to reduce their symptoms. But I wanted to look today at the different hormones that are, can I use is produced? Yeah, the different hormones that are produced in a woman's body, and what happens when these hormones begin to decline. So can we start by looking at the stages of menopause, and can you share some of the signs of perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, please?
Yes, I mean perimenopause. I feel like it's can be quite a confusing time for women because the symptoms can not only change and ebb and flow, but they don't look the same in every woman. Some women might get, quite a lot of the symptoms. Some people might not get as many, and because they can change, some people don't necessarily attribute the symptoms to perimenopause because they might think, oh, I'm too young for that. And perimenopause can typically last for about 4 to 8 years. It can vary, but that's quite a long time of having all these random symptoms that don't necessarily stay the same. So it can be quite confusing. But perimenopause can cause symptoms like mood changes. They seem to be quite common, so things like low mood, anxiety, some other sort of brain related symptoms, so memory issues, brain fog and headaches, they can be quite common. Night sweats and hot flushes, they're like the ones that people really associate with perimenopause and menopause. And a lot of women are, stripping the jumpers off. Opposite to you, Linda, they're not getting in hot baths, they're getting in cold showers, and they're trying to cool down. Sleep disturbances, things to do with the heart health as well, and going through menopause can increase the risk of cardiovascular disease, which we can come on to later, but heart palpitations can be quite common. More sort of telling symptoms, so irregular periods, particularly if you've had regular periods for most of your life, the periods can start to become longer and shorter and not have their same rhythm anymore. Vaginal dryness.
I think that's one of the things it's one of the things I noticed, Sophia, when I started going through the menopause. I didn't actually get any symptoms, but I did notice that my periods, they were always on time, and I never had any issues with my periods, no pain, no clotting, nothing like that. They were always on time. But then I started to go longer between my periods, and the colour changed slightly as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think it
But
can
then the symptoms kind of came, the other symptoms, should I say, came afterwards.
Yeah, so the irregular periods, vaginal dryness, loss of libido is quite common. Weight gain, a lot of women start to notice, particularly around the middle, that weight is starting to come on more easily as the metabolism starts to slow down. Like you mentioned.
Why? Sorry, Sophie. Do you know why when women start going through the menopause, the weight seems to go around the middle?
Yeah, it is generally down to those hormones, or lack of them, should I say. So it's very funny how it tends to just, I mean, it does not always just the middle though. Some women just put weight on generally, but it can be more around the abdomen area, and people can sometimes feel that that's also down to maybe some bloating as well. So it might not always be necessarily weight gain. It can be quite a lot of bloating that goes on. Like you mentioned earlier, there can be a lot of GI symptoms associated with going through perimenopause and menopause, again due to the reduction in hormones, which we'll come on to, but can cause bloating, constipation, acid reflux, those kind of symptoms that a lot of women do experience. And again, it's down to those hormones that are dwindling away, that usually regulate gut motility and things like that.
And is that estrogen, Sophia?
Yes.
Estrogen in particular?
Estrogen in particular, and also progesterone. So both of those are involved in transit time, gut motility, so moving that stool along, keeping things going rather than stagnating within the gut. So those are the sort of symptoms of perimenopause. And then, so in that time, the hormones are really fluctuating, but they're still present.
Yes.
And then once a woman hits menopause, which is determined when they have gone for 12 consecutive months without any menstrual period, that then marks the menopause. And at this point, estrogen and progesterone and testosterone actually remain constantly low. So there's none of this going on. So that's when you might see the symptoms change into something that looks maybe a bit more stable in some women, or some women it actually gets worse because of the real, crash of the hormones that becomes the norm. But it really depends on the state of the woman entering into perimenopause, what their diet's like, what's their stress like, what's their activity levels like. There's so many things that can really impact a woman's experience with their, perimenopause and menopause.
That's really interesting, because I know, I'm glad you've mentioned that, because I know when we've spoken before about pregnancy, getting pregnant, that a woman, should ideally prepare her body for pregnancy. So are you saying that a woman should prepare her body, sort of physically and mentally, her body for the menopause as well?
100%. I think that is so important, because I think we'll probably come on to talk about this in more detail, but the adrenal glands, in a nutshell, these are what sort of keep you going after your ovaries have ceased producing any estrogen or progesterone. The adrenal glands do produce a little bit, so they're keeping your levels, not completely on the floor. However, if you go into your perimenopause and menopause with adrenal fatigue or burnout or high stress, your adrenal glands are already overtaxed, and that's what we can call adrenal fatigue. And they are then therefore less likely to be able to produce that little bit of estrogen and progesterone that your body really needs at that time. So yes, particularly going into perimenopause, making sure that stress is under control, adrenal glands are nourished, mineral levels are topped up that we need. Like, the adrenal glands absolutely love magnesium. So making sure those levels are really good entering, like diet as well, lifestyle, all of those things, like you say, like going into pregnancy, I would treat it the same. If you think perimenopause is nearing, make sure you're looking at all of those things so that you can hopefully not have as many symptoms going through that transition as you might do.
And you being a nutritional therapist can help women put kind of a plan, a program, a protocol together then to help them at that stage of their life.
Absolutely, yes, definitely. With diet, looking at, we'll come on to sort of those kind of things, but all sorts of different dietary recommendations, supplements, lifestyle, stress management, exercise, etc., that are all specifically targeted at women at that lifestyle stage and supporting hormones.
Yeah, I was listening to Radio 4 this morning. They had a program on about the immune system, and they were talking about exercise. The interviewer was doing some it'd been introduced to cold water swimming.
Okay, yeah.
Have you tried it, cold water swimming?
I have. When we go to Devon, which we do quite a bit, it's quite near to this sea, and we do. Well, the last couple of times I've been in the winter when it's been really cold, I've been pregnant or with a new baby, so I've not gone in, because I mean, there's so much research around cold water therapy in terms of it being really great for so many things, doing so many benefits, but I am not really convinced it's great for women's hormones, actually.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because they had some very high caliber academics and scientists speaking on this program as well, as you would expect on Radio 4. And what they did, right, before people started cold water swimming, before they actually went into the water, they took some blood before they went into the cold water. I know we're digressing a bit here,
as always.
But I just find it fascinating. And then they took blood after they'd been in the water, when they came out of the water, and they compared the white blood cells. And there were more white blood cells in the blood after they'd been in the cold water that had been mobilized from the spleen and the bone marrow. So this scientist, I think she, immunologist, she said, but within a few hours, those white blood cells have, disappeared from the blood. They don't stay there for very long. And the conclusion was, of all the academics on this program, was that It doesn't matter whether you're cold water swimming or you're dancing or you're going for a walk, whatever you're doing, if you're enjoying it and if you're doing it with a group, with friends, then it's going to have a positive impact on your immune system. And that makes sense to me.
Does, definitely. I think
Anyway,
in terms of like looking from a Chinese medicine point of view, where keeping the womb nice and warm, you know, for hormones, particularly for fertility, actually,
oh
where
yes,
they focus on warming foods and warming the womb and all of that. Cold water therapy goes completely against that in terms of supporting women's hormones for fertility, which that also does make quite a lot of sense in my head, actually.
yeah, it does in my head as well. And like in
Yeah.
traditional Chinese medicine, they say, you know, in the winter, don't have juices, don't have cold juices,
No. Yeah,
have
yeah.
warm soups and
Yeah,
casseroles. Yeah, and for the same reason, yes. So
exactly.
where did we get to? So we've covered perimenopause, menopause. Anything else you want
Yes.
to say on menopause, or shall we move on to post-menopause, Sophia?
Yeah, I don't think so. Was I going to say anything else? No, as I've said about it
Mm.
can span a long time, perimenopause.
Mm.
And the average age of
I
menopause. Sorry.
Sorry, go on. Oh, I was going to say, I think menopause and postmenopause symptoms can as well. And I tell you why, because when I was working back in the day when I was doing physiotherapy in the clinic, this was even, you know, before I'd even trained in colon hydrotherapy. A lady used to come to me for physiotherapy, and she was well into her 70s then, and she was still getting hot flushes and
Oh my
night sweats.
gosh.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
what is going on there? You know, when you're in your mid 70s and you're still getting those
Yeah.
symptoms.
Yeah, if the average age of menopause, I think they say it's 51, and it can go from sort of 45 to 55-ish. So if she's been
Yes.
experiencing those symptoms for like 20 years, that's awful.
I mean, my menopause symptoms ended at 54. Yes, I started at about 46, 47, and then they
Mm.
ended at 54. But I, it's a lady who was under a great deal of stress at the
Mm.
time. Her son had died.
Oh gosh.
So she was under a considerable amount of stress, and
Mm.
I'm sure that, would have had an impact. Would have
I
had
would
an impact.
agree, definitely.
So, right. So I think we've covered these then. Are the symptoms associated with each phase of menopause different? Well, I think
I'd say, yeah, not particularly really. I think they sort of ebb and flow and can change, but they're the same symptoms that can keep occurring. And even when the periods have stopped, like you experienced, the symptoms can still persist. And again, I think it really depends on the constitution of the woman, what she's doing to support her hormones, how her past stress levels have been. So very individual for each woman.
Mm,
But the symptoms don't really necessarily change as such, but they do hopefully level out
yes,
once the hormones have settled down.
yes. I mean, isn't it great nowadays that we're able to talk a lot more about menopause?
Yeah.
I just think back to when my mum was going through the menopause. I didn't really understand that she was going through the menopause because it just wasn't talked about back
No, I
then.
don't think, yeah.
It wasn't discussed. I mean, we didn't have the internet back then either.
No,
But but it wasn't mentioned in magazines. It wasn't on the
no,
television, and my mum never discussed it with me really. That I can
no,
recall, and yet now,
no,
it's great that we are discussing these things.
definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
So here we go. Yes, blood test. Is there a specific blood test that will tell a woman if she is menopausal, or is it determined by symptoms alone?
I mean, blood tests can be done to measure hormone levels, looking at things like follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, AMH, which is looking at your egg reserve levels. However, I wouldn't say that there's any single test that can definitively diagnose menopause and say, this means you're menopause, because FSH, estrogen, and AMH can also be high or low for other reasons. So instead, it is usually based on symptoms, age,
Mm,
and menstrual history, and looking at those really, I'd
right.
say.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. So hormones. We hear this word being bandied around a lot. Hormones. I'm hormonal. But what exactly is going on? with a woman's hormones during menopause?
So I think what we mentioned earlier is key, but the hormones we're really talking about here are estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, actually. Cortisol as well, as we mentioned earlier about the adrenal fatigue side of things, and cortisol does have quite a lot to do with these hormones and can disrupt them. But in the absence of cortisol, when our hormones start to go through the perimenopausal stage, they are literally fluctuating with no real rhyme or reason, high and low and high and low. So that's what can cause such instability in things like people's mood, in people's ability to regulate the temperature, in the ability to stay asleep at night, all those kind of things, ability to regulate digestion, because the hormones are just going wild. So fluctuating greatly, particularly those three main reproductive hormones. Then once the menopause has actually officially started to, after the 12 months of no periods, then we have consistently low levels of those three hormones. Estrogen's on the floor, progesterone's on the floor, testosterone's on the floor. Cortisol might actually be higher. So all of those things in conjunction with each other, then we start to see, sometimes more of those symptoms occurring. Again, depending what the woman's doing, are they taking supplements to support dwindling estrogen levels? Are they on HRT? Are they super stressed out? And that's affecting the hormones even more. So that's what's happening with the hormones. But like I say, the adrenal glands do provide a little bit of a saving grace at the end there, because they do continue to produce a little bit of estrogen and progesterone once the ovaries stop. But are your adrenal glands in a position to do so? And if not, then you're perhaps not getting as much of a benefit as somebody who's really focused on, lifestyle medicine, stress support, cortisol management, before and during that stage of life. So
a thought crossed my mind a few days ago, when I was thinking about us doing this video. Well, why do these hormones start to decline when women are kind of in their mid 40s? What's happening evolutionary? And I know it's kind of out there, but because when we start to go through the menopause, and those hormones are declining, it affects lots of things, doesn't it? It affects our skin. It can affect our sex life, of course, because of the vaginal dryness, and it can get very sore and uncomfortable down there. But I just wondered, what was in the mind of the creator? When he or she said, okay, right, mid-40s, a woman's going to start, hormones are going to start declining, and she's going to start, to get wrinkles, and her hair's going to start falling out. And
why?
Why?
I suppose
she's not going to be able to bear children anymore. Why? What is going on there?
I know. I suppose it's nature's way of saying, slow down. You're not in the most active, fit state anymore to be raising children, so we're going to put a stop to that for you. And,
maybe, but I don't think we'll ever know the answer, will we?
No. It's all very clever, though, isn't it? How it all works.
It is. So there are many symptoms that can be attributed to menopause, but a lot of women just remain oblivious to this. What are some of the many symptoms that women may not realise are caused by hormonal changes?
Yeah,
so there's hot flushes, there's night sweats, there's brain fog, there's mood swings, there's weight gain. Are there any sort of symptoms that a woman may not realise are connected to declining hormones?
I think some of them are really obvious, aren't they? Like the ones you said, like the night sweats and the hot flushes. Those seem to be really well associated with menopause. But maybe things like just generalized fatigue. People may not think, oh, that could be down to my hormones, or maybe being a bit more forgetful. People might not necessarily be like, oh, yes, that's because of my hormones. And it's talking about vaginal dryness. It's not just vaginal dryness. It can be very dry skin, very dry hair, very dry eyes. So people can get really sore and dry, burning eyes when they go through the menopause. And, you know, something like that might not think, oh, actually, that could be down to my hormones and the fact that I'm going through menopause. But again, because the symptoms are so widespread and that they don't look the same in each woman, it could be quite hard to say, oh yeah, I'm this age, this must be down to my hormones, because like the symptoms can change a lot. But I suppose, yeah, if you've not ever had anything like IBS and then you suddenly get constipation as well, you might not necessarily think that was hormonal. Gut, I don't think people necessarily link hormonal health to gut health, really.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do either. Because you know, when someone contacts me and they're having issues with constipation, bloating, acid reflux, then I always want one of the questions I ask, many questions, as you do, Sophie. You know, we like to sort of put a picture together. But one of the questions I ask is her age.
Yeah.
And then that gives me a clue as to maybe, you know, if she's kind of between 45 and 55, could it be hormonal that's causing? So then I go on to say, well, did you have these symptoms prior to going through the menopause?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very underestimated, whereas things like the gut-brain connection is getting more widespreadly known about, whereas gut hormone, I don't think there's much connection there for people yet at the minute. No.
Well, that's why we're doing this video, isn't it?
Yes.
So
Empower people.
Empower people. Yes,
Yes.
that's right. Okay, so are there specific triggers that women need to look for? Energy levels, mood, stress, loss of confidence, libido, painful intercourse, skin hair, weight gain? Well, yes, I think we've covered most of those, haven't we?
We have. I'd say that triggers that can worsen any of those symptoms really can be things, again, back to the unmanaged stress levels. Diet, definitely, like a pro-inflammatory diet can definitely trigger some of these things more so. Particularly things like your diet can have such an effect on your mood, on your energy levels, on your sleep. So an unmanaged diet like that could definitely trigger. Smoking can trigger some of those symptoms. Hot environments that we mentioned can trigger hot flushes. Imbalanced blood sugar levels, actually, that's quite a big trigger for quite a few of the symptoms in terms of things like mood, energy, weight gain. All of those can really be triggered by not balancing your blood sugar levels correctly throughout the day. So that can be quite a big trigger, but again, ties back into diet. Sleep deprivation can be a trigger, although it's also a symptom. But then if you are sleep deprived the next day, for example, it can mess up your cortisol levels, which can then make you crave more sugary foods. And then that can lead into the weight gain side of things more. So some of the things are a bit of like a chicken and egg situation with it. But a lot of things can be improved by diet, lifestyle, stress management, targeted supplements, I would say.
Yes, yeah, I absolutely agree with you there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a little about this and the digestive issues that women can start experiencing, like bloating, constipation, and acid reflux. So this happens because of decline in estrogen and testosterone, or is it progesterone?
Yeah, more so progesterone. Yeah.
More so progesterone. Yes, yeah. So you know when it comes to testosterone, then that's to do with libido, isn't it?
Yeah, it is to do with libido. It's also to do with like energy levels and like feeling your best, confidence, those kind of things that can often peak in a certain time of a woman's cycle is when they are at times with sort of ovulation, increases libido, that kind of thing. Yeah. But in terms of the gut and the hormones, it, like you say, is because of low levels of the estrogen and progesterone. estrogen usually increases serotonin, which is our more widely known as our sort of like happy hormone, but it's massively implicated in gut motility and transit time. So if estrogen is low, it basically means that serotonin can be lower, which can decrease gut motility, causing constipation, bloating, acid reflux, but also lower mood, and that kind of thing, as it's known, as like I say, as the happy hormone. And low estrogen can also drive higher cortisol levels. And again, that can affect transit time and also stomach acid production. So if we've got high cortisol levels, it can shut down our stomach acid production. And that means we're not breaking food down as well. We're not absorbing our food well. And that leaves food sort of sitting in the stomach, fermenting, putrefying, and then we can get acid reflux and again bloating. So again, down to those low dwindling levels of estrogen and progesterone.
Do you know, it's interesting what, you know, talking about acid reflux, because I was reading some data recently about the six deadliest cancers. And I was flabbergasted, Sophia, to read that in the UK we have the highest incidence of esophageal cancer in the world.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Our tiny island has the highest incidence of esophageal cancer in the whole world.
Wow.
And so I thought, what's going on there? I need to dig a little bit deep. A lot of it has got to do with diet and lifestyle, as we know. But, you know, the adenocarcinoma tends to start because acid is being constantly regurgitated out of the stomach, up the esophagus, tends to start in the bottom part of the esophagus, where it attaches to the stomach. There are two different types of esophageal cancer: adenocarcinomas, which tend to be at the bottom of the esophagus, and then there's a certain cancer that tends to be sort of more near the top of the esophagus. Couldn't believe that. And then we're digressing again, I know, but bowel cancer that I'm particularly interested in. Bowel cancer.
Yes.
So one good thing that's happened recently is that in England, everyone over the age of 50 will now be getting a fit test through the post instead of over the age of 60.
Brilliant. Although I must say that the incidences of sort of like teenage bowel cancers, 30s and 40s, I feel like they need to bring it even younger, Linda, to be honest with you.
It wouldn't have helped Deborah James, would it, Sophia?
No, exactly. And that's not.
She was 36 when she was diagnosed.
She was, and that's not uncommon now. Unfortunately, it is affecting more and more young people. And it's actually no surprise, though, I don't think. You know, when you think about the food we eat and ingest touches those cells every day going through that digestive system, and what we're eating these days is a lot of rubbish, unfortunately. Even healthy chemical foods, and even
the body
things
can't
that
identify.
no, exactly.
But just before we move on again, bowel cancer. So it's the fourth most common cancer in the UK, but it's the second biggest killer. And that's because, you know, people ignore the symptoms or they don't do the fit test. I mean, you know, if blood is picked up in the fit test, they go in for a colonoscopy. Polyps, it's usually a polyp that's bleeding, can be removed. And then, you know, that polyp, if not removed, 5-10 years down the line, probably would have turned into a cancer.
Yeah, it's scary. And a lot of people, there's all the shame and stigma associated with the symptoms, and they just don't want to acknowledge it. And like you say, years can go by where they're putting up with the symptoms, and then it can often be too late because the polyp wasn't removed. And
ignorant and die. That's what I think, you know, it's ridiculous. Right, so how can, have we done this one? Lifestyle changes, diet, exercise, or mindfulness practice, how can they help reduce symptoms?
Well, we just touched briefly there, dietary wise, in terms of balancing our blood sugar levels. That can help massively to support your hormone levels. It can help to reduce cortisol levels, which can help to balance out the other hormones. Most of the clients that walk through my virtual door do not have their blood sugar levels balanced even close to what they should do.
Mm.
It sounds complicated, but really all we need to be doing to support our blood sugar balance is making sure we don't eat carbohydrates on their own. So you might think in the morning it's a great way to start your day having a bowl of porridge with honey and a banana on it. It sounds healthy, but it's actually a bowl of glucose that's going to cause your blood sugar to spike. And then we're going to get big crashes. And when our blood sugar spikes and drops, cortisol is released. So by eating that way, we are increasing cortisol, which is messing up with our hormones. If we have protein with each meal or healthy fats as well, then we don't get those massive surges in blood glucose. We have it sort of really much more stabilized. It's a more steady level entering the bloodstream. So I always say to people, try and aim for a minimum of 25 grams of protein per meal. Some people need quite a bit more than that, and it depends on the body weight, but that's quite a good starting point. Even if you have like 2 poached eggs on toast in the morning, an egg only contains around 6 grams of protein. So you're only getting 12 grams there with 2 eggs. So it does take a bit of mindfulness in terms of getting enough protein in there. But once you start to become familiar with the sources of protein, it becomes second nature and it's much easier. But protein is your best friend when it comes to balancing blood sugars, and that will help with so many menopausal symptoms.
Not just with balancing blood sugar levels, but maintaining healthy muscle tissue as we age as well.
Exactly.
So for my breakfast this morning, well, Kevin and I, we both had 2 poached eggs on sourdough, and I had half an avocado. Kevin's not very keen on avocado. So, and there were large eggs. There were extra large eggs as well. So, we certainly got our protein.
You get a bit more with the larger ones, or duck eggs have got maybe more like 9 grams of protein per egg. So then you're more nearing that 25. Cottage cheese is a great one.
Duck egg. I've never tried a duck egg.
Yeah, then products really. I don't think they're that different to a normal egg, really. I wouldn't say. I don't think I noticed a huge difference in the flavour, really. But obviously much bigger and longer time to cook them, but more protein, yeah.
How many grams then in a duck egg?
I think it's more like 9 from memory rather than the 6 that you get in a normal egg. So so it's worth looking into, definitely. But as well as balancing blood sugars, I'd say trying to include foods that are known as phytoestrogenic. So breaking that down, that basically means that the food, usually plant-based foods, they have a sort of mild estrogenic effect in the body in terms of the fact that they can bind to the estrogen receptors on your cells and start to add into the bodily load of estrogen. So that's what we want when we're going through menopause, is actually a bit more estrogen. That's why people take HRT. That's why people take things that are more natural versions of HRT. But phytoestrogen rich foods are a way to do that. Such as things like soy isoflavones. So that comes from like the soybean. So that can come from edamame beans, soya milk, soybeans in general, things like that. Flax seeds, so they contain a different type of phytoestrogen called a lignin. But again, it's also adding to that estrogenic load in the body, which is what we want, to just boost those levels a little bit naturally within the body. So those are 2 good tips in terms of diet. Also in terms of diet, supporting gut health through the diet is really important to be able to process those hormones, because you might think that you want to retain all the hormones, but actually whatever stage of life we're at, with hormones, we want to use them and we want to lose them. Once they've been used and they're spent, we want to get them out. So we need to make sure that our liver and our gut is working well to process them and eliminate them once they've been utilized. And in order to do that, it's fiber. It's more fiber to promote bowel regularity. It's more
we don't want those hormones recirculating again in the blood, do we?
No, that's not good for anybody. They can become quite toxic when they're left within the body and not recycled and spent out of the body how they should be. Fermented foods as well to enhance microbiome diversity. So things like sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, kefir, live natural yogurt, those kind of foods, excellent to include. peri-menopause, well, just generally throughout life from
Well,
the
yes.
whole of your life, really. But supporting your microbiome before you go into the menopause is a very good idea, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at what else a woman can do to support her hormones, including natural supplements. Right, remedies and supplements. When I was going through the menopause and the hot flushes, having the hot flushes and night sweats, I took some sage, and it kind of helped take the edge off. One of the best things I ever did was to stop drinking red wine.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the hot flushes and the night sweats, because red wine, not that I drank a lot, I mean, I hardly drink anyway. But I always found that if I had a glass of red wine of an evening, I wouldn't have a very good night with the hot flushes.
I feel like it does that to the best of us. It sort of can make you feel quite warm, can't it, red wine, and can give you a bit of a flush. But I think we just mentioned then about the phytoestrogen foods. Well, you can get those in supplement form as well. So you can get soy isoflavones in supplements. You can get flaxseed lignans based in supplements, which, again, if you don't like soy and things like that, then it can be a really good way to help add into the load and get those plant sources of estrogens going inside. Depending on a woman's symptoms, there are loads of things out there in terms of supplements and herbs that are available to support things like sleep, sugar cravings, anxiety, low mood, constipation. So there's so much you can do from a natural perspective. But again, it just depends on what symptom you're wanting to support. But if we think back to why those symptoms are occurring, is because of low estrogen. The best things to be focusing on if you're looking for a supplement is something like soy isoflavones or flaxseed lignans. Those kind of things are going to help to boost those levels. If you then still experiencing something like constipation or poor sleep, things like magnesium and those kind of minerals can be really useful.
Yes, yeah. Does magnesium help with sleep as well?
Yes.
Yes, it
definitely. Helps with all sorts of things, magnesium. It's like a wonder mineral. I think it's great for so much, but particularly constipation, sleep, stress, supporting adrenal glands, even things like restless leg syndrome. That is great. Magnesium is great for that. It's great for energy production. It's a really good all-rounder. I think it's got about 300 functions in the body, magnesium, so that's why it can help support so many different things.
Amazing, isn't it? And so many people are deficient in magnesium because of their diet.
Yes, and also because I think we mentioned earlier that when we're stressed, our adrenal glands use excess magnesium and also excess vitamin C up in order
I was going to mention that vitamin C. Yes.
So having, replenishing those lost stores is really important. Otherwise, you are going to be depleted in magnesium and you will experience bad sleep, constipation, and low mood and things. So it's like another vicious cycle, really. If you're already stressed and you've burnt up all your magnesium, you get all those symptoms occurring.
It really is a super mineral, isn't it, magnesium?
Definitely. It's one of my favourites. I take it every night.
What, to help you sleep?
Just, for sleep, but just for all sorts, really. I always take magnesium glycinate before I go to bed.
Okay, thank you very much. This is fascinating. I hope everyone else is enjoying it.
I hope so.
Right, so many women turn to HRT to help manage their menopausal symptoms, but there are many women who don't want to take HRT or are not able to take it due to side effects. So what would you recommend for these women? So I suppose it depends on, again, what symptoms they are experiencing, because it's the same with just For Tummies. I match the supplements to symptoms. I think it's the same with with the menopause, isn't it?
Definitely. And when it comes to supplements, you also have to be mindful, are they all already on any medications? Are they going to have any contraindications? So it's never just a blanket approach like you will know, Linda. It's always taking the person and their symptoms and their own unique profile into consideration. But I think, first of all, I'd say make sure you're looking at the lifestyle. if you don't want to take HRT, and looking at your diet. We've mentioned what you can do there. In terms of supplements, I think something that's going to help naturally boost those estrogen levels is great. So again, we mentioned earlier, it's soy, flaxseed, those kind of ingredients are quite good ones to look for in a supplement. But again, it does depend what symptoms you're experiencing. Like if it is the sleep, then I would definitely recommend getting some magnesium in there. If it's the hot flushes, like you mentioned, sage has got some really good research on it as well. So there's just so many good natural alternatives out there that you can, you know, seek out and seek the help of a professional, a nutritionist, a nutritional therapist, should I say, who can give you really tailored advice as to which things to take for the best. Some menopause supplements will have sort of like a multivitamin, if you like. They sort of have lots of things encompassed in there to cover most bases for women. Some things you can get more isolated, like you can take a sage tincture on its own. You could take magnesium on its own, and it really depends on what you're trying to hone into, really.
Okay, so I think we've covered this one. Yeah, there are lots of great natural ingredients that can help with menopausal symptoms. Could you talk us through some of the benefits of a few? Let's start with magnesium. I think you've pretty much covered that,
I
actually.
think we have actually, yeah.
So helps with sleep, helps with sorry, what else was it? Helps with sleep.
It helps with stress. The one thing we
Stress.
maybe didn't touch on as much is the fact that it's great for constipation.
Of course.
There are lots of different types of magnesium. There's quite a few to mention, but depending on your symptoms, if it is constipation, magnesium citrate is probably the best one to go for constipation.
Yes.
Magnesium is responsible for smooth muscle contraction. So when we don't have enough of it, our muscles can be quite tight. And the bowel is a series of muscles that help to squeeze a stool along. So if they're very tight, that's not going to happen. So magnesium can help the muscles to push the stool along. Magnesium is also, again, another one I've just remembered, is great for migraines and headaches. And again, that's down to that muscle contraction, where your head can be quite tight. And when we take magnesium, it can help to relax things and ease things like migraines, which can be more common in menopause.
What are some foods that are high in magnesium then, Sophia?
Somewhat, sorry.
Foods that are high in magnesium.
Foods, yeah. So we can find them in things like whole grains, dark leafy green vegetable, things like kale and spinach, those kind of things. We can find them in almonds. We can find them in dark chocolate. Quite a good source of magnesium, actually, like really quite a good source. So if you're a chocoholic, and again, if you've got menopausal sugar cravings, dark chocolate can be a really good one to help to satisfy a sweet tooth, but also increase your magnesium levels. And good quality dark chocolate's got a lot of other minerals in it as well. And you don't need as much if you're having a dark chocolate as you could. I could probably, eat a whole bar of milk chocolate if I really wanted to. But you can't really do that with dark chocolate, can you? You feel like you have a couple of squares and it's satisfying.
I have the raw cacao powder, I often have that as a milky drink with either coconut, almond, oat or cashew nut milk.
Yeah, lovely.
And that really helps to keep me regular.
Yeah, definitely. It's brilliant. I like to add some cacao powder into my porridge at the minute in the morning, and it makes it like a chocolatey. It's absolutely delicious, and it satisfies my sweet tooth.
Yes. So let's talk a little about the lesser known ingredients that can help with menopausal symptoms, like ashwagandha, dong quai, chromium and boron.
Yeah. Well, let's start with ashwagandha then. So ashwagandha is an adaptogenic herb. So, that term is sort of put around quite a lot these days. And it basically means it helps the body to adapt to stress. So it can help to regulate cortisol levels, if you like. It's great for calming the nervous system. It's also quite a good one for supporting the immune system as well. And also, triple whammy, it has got a mild phytoestrogen effect as well. So again, it's lesser known for that actually, but it can help to boost those estrogen levels that are dwindling away when it comes to menopause. What was the other one you said? Dong Quai.
Yes.
This one, it's an ancient herb and it can really help with like irregular cycles. So people can take it not only in perimenopause, but even if they're before that stage and they've got irregular cycles, it can be quite good for helping to bring balance back there. And I think that one is actually also quite good for hot flushes. Not as well known as sage is,
No.
but Dong Quai can help to reduce those hot flush incidences.
Mm.
Chromium actually is great for supporting blood sugar regulation. So that can actually help to reduce sugar cravings in women, and that can then help with weight loss, which can be harder for people who have got who are going through menopause. It's actually something that I would use in people who have got diabetes or pre-diabetes, chromium, because it's so great for supporting blood sugar levels. And it can also help to support heart health, which can decline in menopause, and it helps to lower the LDL cholesterol, which is known as the bad type of cholesterol.
Yeah.
So yeah, chromium is a great one, I'd say, for menopause actually, and I don't think many people think of it when they think of menopause supplements, but chromium, yeah, really good. What was the last one?
Boron.
Boron, B for boron, bone health.
Bone health, yes.
Really good for helping the body to utilize calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium, all of which are critical for maintaining strong bones. And as many people will know, bone health and the risk of osteoporosis can increase when people have gone through menopause, because estrogen really helps to protect the bones, and without it we do have more osteoporosis, osteopenia, fractures, etc. So boron is great.
A lot of these trace minerals like chromium, boron, they are very much depleted, aren't they, in the soil? So
Absolutely.
when we're growing our root vegetables, we're not getting these trace minerals.
Absolutely, yeah. The
Unless
quality of the soil.
we buy organic, though, Sophia. I mean, I don't
Yes.
know with organic vegetables if the farmer does actually take care of the soil in terms of the mineral, the trace mineral in the soil.
Yeah, I would imagine that the soil quality is better when it's not polluted with chemicals all the
Yes.
time, but yeah, I'm
And I just wonder,
definitely,
about the soil association as well.
yeah,
If they would know which, I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would know. I'm sure they have the data on
yes,
areas of high mineral content.
they
The
will
soil.
do, I'm sure, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so yes, the long-term impacts of menopause, like bone health, heart health, and how can women protect themselves against these problems arising?
Yeah, it's funny, like how you said earlier about the evolution. Like, why why are we designed to get all these horrible
To
things?
age. Why are we
Yeah,
designed to age?
horrible things happen to us. But osteoporosis is one of them. I think it's estimated women can lose around 20% of the bone density within the first 5 years of menopause. So it's quite significant. And again, that does depend though on the diet. It depends on the gut health. Like, are you absorbing the food that you're eating? But osteoporosis can be prevented. Weight-bearing exercise is great for supporting
Very important, yeah.
health. Yes.
I
So if
think I've told you before that I go to a ladies only gym, Sophia.
oh,
And
nice.
the average age is around 55, 60. But many of the ladies that go are well into their 70s and early 80s.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing. Honestly, they are inspirational. And so there's a room there that's got lots of different motorized weight machines,
Oh, nice.
and they strengthen the whole, all of the muscle groups of the body, depending on, so I think there's about 12 different machines, and you go from one to another, and they strengthen and tone all of the muscles in the body, and you can select kind of an easy one or a more difficult one, so more weight to
Yeah,
push
yeah.
against. And then in the other room, you know, it's like a dance studio. We do aerobics and things
Oh,
like
that's
that.
fab.
But I
Sounds
look at these
great.
women and I look how they move and how they walk. You know, those into the 70s and early 80s,
Mm,
and they're like 20, 30 years younger in terms
wow.
of how they move their bodies and how
Yeah.
strong they are,
That's
as well.
amazing. I think,
Mm,
that again, it goes to show what a different experience you can have as you age in terms
mm.
of what you put into your body and what you do for your body, and it pays off. It really does.
And
Um,
we often have conversations about diet and lifestyle as well. But the gym is not just a gym, you know, it's very social as well. So many of the
Definitely.
women that go, they've been going there for over 15 years.
Wow.
And they have trips, you know, they have day trips and things like that.
Wow.
And I just love going.
Which gym is it?
It's one in Arnold, ladies only gym. It's called
Oh,
Body
right.
Tone. Body
Okay,
Tone.
I've not heard of
Yeah,
that one. That
Body
sounds
Tone.
great.
Mm, mm,
But I think, again, just talking about bone health, I think as people do become more elderly and more prone to fractures and less able to walk, stay inside a lot more, and then
mm,
not getting as much vitamin D as well, and that has a massive part to play in bone health and risk of osteoporosis. So those
mm.
people need to be taking vitamin D supplements, not just in the winter, but if they're not going outside and getting in the fresh air and the sunlight, they need to be taking it all year, really.
All year round. And that's something that Dr. David Grimes said when I interviewed him recently. You know, he's one of the UK's experts on vitamin D and vitamin D deficiency, and that we should be taking it all through the year.
Yeah, I think a lot of people definitely need to be, particularly more elderly people who can't tolerate the sun. They don't like to be sitting out in the hot heat. And if they are, they're under an umbrella or they're, in the shade and they're not,
Under a canopy, yes, yeah.
yeah, and the skin's
Like my
fragile
mum.
and
My mum's
yeah,
never sunbathed in her life.
really.
But she had a fall on the 6th of October. She broke her right dominant hand, and
Oh
it
no.
has been catastrophic.
Gosh, I
So
can imagine.
she had X-rays when she broke it. I went to the hospital with her, and yes, osteoporosis, quite
Oh,
severe
bless her.
osteoporosis.
Just so weak, yeah.
So weak, and they had to put pins in it, Sophia. So she had surgery, major surgery,
Gosh,
anaesthetic, and they had to
bless
put pins
her.
in it. But it was difficult for the pins to hold the bone and mend the bones because
Mm,
of the bones in her wrist are so osteoporotic. Now her leg bones are strong because
gosh.
for years, my mum hiked, she walked.
Oh, weight bearing exercise. There you go.
Weight bearing exercise,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
do
yeah,
anything with her hands and her arms. So this gym that
yeah,
I go to, there are machines there that do strengthen the muscles of the hands and the arms, you see.
yeah. So important. You don't think about, your hand bones and things and muscles, but so, without that, you're not going to get very far, are you?
No, and it's all about trying to prevent falls, isn't it? You know,
Oh, definitely.
especially as
Yeah,
we get older.
definitely.
Okay, so heart health. We know that
Yes.
women are more at risk from heart disease, heart attacks. I'm not sure about strokes, actually. Not sure about
Hmm.
strokes and going through the menopause, but certainly heart
Definitely. Yeah,
issues.
estrogen has a real protective effect on the heart and the blood vessels. So without it, we are more at risk of cardiovascular diseases. And
Mm,
LDL, the bad cholesterol, can often increase as estrogen declines as well. So yeah,
yeah.
heart disease is another one, as well as bone health that can decline once we hit menopause.
Mm,
I think we mentioned earlier about metabolic changes as well. So weight gain and diabetes more common in people who are menopausal. Metabolism tends to slow down after menopause.
yeah.
Um, and then the blood sugar regulation, it can be harder to manage, particularly if we're having poor sleep because we've got night sweats, and then the next day it makes us crave more sugary foods, and it all sort of ties into each other. cognitive decline as well.
I was
Estrogen
just about
usually,
to mention that,
yeah,
like dementia, and they say, don't they, that Alzheimer's disease is type 3 diabetes.
yeah.
Well, that's blood sugar, isn't it?
Blood sugar is huge with cognition. But estrogen also is usually protective of brain health, and then if it's lower, we are more prone to memory loss, dementia, those kind of things. So that's another one that's it can decline after menopause, as well as mental health as well. So those fluctuating hormones, particularly in the perimenopause, can lead to anxiety, depression, mood swings, and those kind of things. So yeah, there's lots of unpleasant things.
And that can have a knock-on effect with work, with your relationship, can't
Definitely.
it?
Absolutely, it really can.
As we bring this amazing discussion to an end, what's the single most piece of advice that you would give to women about menopause and embracing this stage of life with confidence and resilience?
Oh,
Sorry.
I think probably bringing back to what I mentioned right at the beginning, if
Yes.
I could give you the best piece of advice, is to try and enter your perimenopause in the best health that you can, like you would approach a pregnancy. Prepare for it, think about it, support your adrenal health, get onto that magnesium, support your gut health prior. And because, like everyone says, prevention is always better than the cure. So if you go into it with healthy adrenals, healthy gut, healthy mind, healthy diets already in place, blood sugars are balanced, all those things already, you're probably going to have a much better experience, I'd say. So yeah, I'd probably go with that. What would your piece of advice be, Linda?
Yeah, absolutely the same. I'm just trying to think back to when I was going through the menopause, and I didn't have a bad menopause.
That's great.
I had the occasional night sweat, hot flushes, occasional. I can remember losing some of my confidence. I can remember having a brain fog, a bit of confusion. But I suppose because of my background in natural health, I was taking supplements to support my hormonal health, and my diet's always been good. My diet's always been good. I've always tried to exercise. I've always had, I like to think, a really positive mental attitude to everything that I do. And I'm passionate about natural health and natural healing. And I don't know where that comes from, to be honest with you, Sophia. People have said to me in the past, why are you so passionate about what you do in natural health?
Yeah.
I don't know, I just am.
I know.
But my paternal granddad was the same. He was a herbalist. And
Oh yes, I remember you saying with his
maybe it
book.
comes from his side of the family. I don't know. I just love natural health, natural healing. So I was ready. And prepared for when the menopause, started to happen in my mid-20s. I was, and I was happy. I was happy in my work. I was happy in my marriage. I was happy. I was content. I think that maybe helps as well. So my stress levels were low. I mean, I was developing Just for Tummies at that time, as well as working in the clinics, working like 16-hour days. So sometimes my stress levels were a bit off the scale. But yeah, I'm with you. It's all about It's all about prevention for me, which is why with Just for Tummies, education, awareness, prevention. To prevent IBS, IBD, diverticular disease, bowel cancer, esophageal cancer, prevention.
And I think that starts with education, empowerment. And I think that's, if you have got a spare hour and you've watched this, then amazing. Hopefully you've taken some tools away and you do feel more empowered and you do feel more educated, and then you can prevent. And then, it has such a good knock-on effect, isn't it?
Yes. And I think it's also important that women, I'm a grandma now. I didn't have any daughters, I had a son, but I'm a grandma now to a granddaughter, and I want to give as much as she's growing up. I want to give as much of my knowledge as I can to her in natural healing. Not all about natural healing, you know, but I wanted to have a good understanding of her body and how it works through the different stages and decades of her life.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, it's so nice that you can pass all your knowledge down.
Yeah, but to my grandson as well.
Oh yes, he needs to
Who's
know
only
as
3
well.
months old.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
gosh, 3 months already
I
though.
know,
That's
3 months old.
flown.
I'm going to see them tomorrow. Honestly, I wish I
Oh,
could spend every day with them. I'd love to spend every.
oh, Linda.
It makes me so happy being with my grandchildren. It really
Oh,
does. Yeah.
oh, that's so lovely.
But
So
Sophia,
lovely.
thank you so much for your time. It's
You're
been so
welcome.
interesting, and we all wish you well with your pregnancy.
Thank
When's the
you.
due date?
Very beginning of May. So yeah, we'll see
Yeah.
if they're late. I don't know. But yeah.
And if people want to contact you, Sophie, I mean, I know you have an amazing Instagram page and you put lots of recipes on. I know you're putting recipes on for Frida. So if anybody's interested
Yeah.
in recipes for a toddler, healthy recipes for a
Toddlers,
toddler,
weaning, but it is
yeah,
all to do, low toxin living,
yes,
supporting gut health. So it kind of applies to all stages of life, really. But yes, it sort of has gone more towards childhood nutrition. While I do obviously still focus on myself, and I do put, tips out about pregnancy and things as whatever I'm going through at the time. Really, I tend to share what's current for me. But yeah,
yeah.
my Instagram is Sophia Hill Nutrition, so it's nice and easy to find. And
Sophia Hill Nutrition.
nutrition, yeah,
Yes.
you
Are you
can
on
contact.
Facebook as well, or is it mainly Instagram?
Not on Facebook, but I'm just on Instagram. Yeah,
Ah, yes. Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
So, anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Thank you so much, Sophia.
You're
I'm
welcome. It's been
sure we
really
will
good.
be talking more about hormones and menopause in the future.
Yes,
So, I'm going to finish the video now. Thank you, everyone. And Sophie, if you don't mind, just hang around for 2 minutes.
yes, of
Okay.
course. Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone, and bye for
Thank you.
now. Thank
Bye.
you.